welcome back to Life in Print with me, Leonie, or welcome if you're new. So today I wanted to talk to you about Goodreads, the pros to using Goodreads and the cons to using Goodreads, or just like a basic understanding of what Goodreads is and why you should use it, or maybe why you shouldn't use it, depending on your own preferences. So I joined Goodreads probably about 3 or 4 years ago now. Prior to that, I had a system with reading books where people bought me books that they thought I might enjoy for Christmas or birthdays. If I had any spare cash, I'd go buy books, and I just basically stuck to the same authors that I'd read before. I used Google a lot to kind of track when the next book in a series was coming out, and then wrote it on my calendar, and it was all very basic. I used to reread a lot of books then as well, so I'd think, I finished this book, what will I read now? I'll just go to my shelves, which was smaller than these ones, and just pick a book. And I didn't really have any system in place to keep track of what I'd read or how many times I'd read it or anything like that. So when I came across Goodreads, I can't remember now how I really got onto it, but I remember being very excited. So for those of you who don't know, Goodreads is a system where you can use either the website or the app on your phone as well to shelve your books. So you can put on it books that you've read and put them into shelves. So for example, I have mine in sort of genre categories, so I'll have like fantasy, crime and thriller, chick lit, that kind of thing. I know some people actually use a system where it's like, books with epic endings. They have these really cool shelves, but I just don't have time to mess about with that. I've read sort of over 2,000 books now, so going through and rejuggling my shelves is just not an option at this point. Maybe for when I've got some spare time one day, whenever that may be. So the great thing about Goodreads is obviously that it allows you to keep track of books you've read that maybe you don't have on your shelves anymore, and when I go book shopping, I'm able to look and think, right, I've read that, or I already own that, or that's not on my TBR, so I've either got to put it on there or I've got to just resist the temptation to buy it, which never happens. So it's basically a great tracking system for keeping a good idea of what you've read, how much you've read, when you've read it, what you've reviewed it, what you rated it, because sometimes, I don't know if anybody else is the same, but I find that I will have read a book and then I'll come across it again and think, oh, this looks really cool. And I remember I've read it, but can't remember whether I thought it was good or not, because it might have been 10 years ago when I read it. So it's great to have Goodreads so I can go on and look at what star rating I gave it, whether I've written a review on it as well, to see whether it's something that I want to revisit. So Goodreads is also great because it lets you have a look at which authors you've read the most, and you can also follow authors for updates, which is great because it lets you know when a new book in the series has come out. And another good thing is it will email you when there's a giveaway for a book that you've shelved. Now, I haven't actually won any Goodreads giveaways yet, but that's mainly because I don't enter that many. I only tend to enter them if Goodreads have emailed me and said a book that you've shelved is having a giveaway. So unless I've seen that, I don't tend to enter into them, just because, again, I just never have time to sit and troll through what I may or may not like, and I am trying to be very strict and stick to my TBR. Which brings me right on to the cons of Goodreads. So the cons for me have been that it has allowed me to become obsessive. So because I can have a TBR, I get obsessed with reading everything that's on that TBR. So every time that TBR grows, I'm angry with myself because I'm like, you were getting down it really well. For example, at the beginning of this year, before I joined Booktube, I was working on reading the books on my Kindle alphabetically. So I wasn't buying any more like physical copies of books. I was just reading what was on my Kindle. So I'd started off at authors beginning in A, and I'd got right down to D. I'd read the Charles Dickens books that I wanted to read, and it was a slow process, but I did get it done up until D. And then I sort of started Booktube, and I watched a lot of other Booktubers videos, and I saw all these amazing new fantasy books that were coming out, and all these amazing YA novels, and then a load of the crime authors that I love have also brought new books out, and I've got totally distracted, and I wanted to do a TBR, and I wanted to do a wrap up, and I wanted to do a book haul, which meant I had to buy books. which I've done, and then obviously I'm reading. Also, NetGalley has scuppered me a lot because I request a lot of books on there that aren't necessarily on my TBR, and then get them granted all at once, so then I'm literally just reading ARCs and nothing else. So then I get frustrated because after getting to the bottom of the D's on my Kindle, I'd managed to get my to-read list down from sort of 420 to like 380, and I was like, yes, I'm finally under 400, and now it's like pushing 500 again. So I kind of like just sort of try and get myself settled in my head that I'm never going to get down that TBR or get it to a reasonable amount of books. Obviously some books I want to read a lot more than others, so I tend to do that, and then when new ones come out it's like, oh well, those other ones can wait, I'm just going to read my new ones. The only other con is being able to set yourself a reading challenge. So last year I set my reading challenge at 150 books, and in the end I had to keep putting it up and up and up because I read, I think, either just under or just over 200. So I decided to be smart with myself and set myself a reading challenge of 300 this year. So again, I'm getting nothing else done because I'm trying to match this target of 300 books. So I have read 111 books up to now this year, but that still leaves me 189 books to read by the end of the year. Although I do have a 10-day holiday in Italy coming up, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to just sit and get some serious reading done while I'm there. But we'll stay near Pompeii, so obviously I'm going to want to be going there as well. And now I'm rambling about my holiday. But yeah, usually a holiday is a great time for me to get lots and lots of reading done. Goodreads also allows you to connect with other readers who like the same sort of books as you. They can follow your reviews, like your reviews, interact with them, comment on them, and you can do the same back. There's also lots of groups on there, so you can have little book clubs going on, which is great, and it enhances sort of the bookish community. There's one on there for booktubers as well, so if you are a booktuber, feel free to go on there and join that. And it just allows you to really connect with people who've got similar interests, a bit like BookTube but without the videos and without the one-way conversation, because obviously you can actually interact sort of over private message or by commenting on things and them commenting back. So there's a lot more interaction between you on that point, and you can make it as private or as public as you want it to be. So that's my little sort of mini review on Goodreads and how it works and why it's good and why sometimes it's not so great. And I hope that if you're not already using Goodreads, you will think to use it, because despite the sort of cons that I've talked about, they're not really cons overall. They're things that I put pressure on myself with and allow myself to get obsessed with, and probably every other bookish person on there does. It's just a fact of life. The system itself is fantastic, it's really useful, absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend signing up. Thanks for visiting my channel again, and I'll see you all soon.